What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the IS300. Today I figured I would go over something that may be considered barbaric or old technology, but I felt the need to bring it up, and probably don't see too many videos of people installing lowering springs. I've had lowering springs on many other cars in the past. They've worked out good. They serve their purpose. They lower, stiffen, enhance the ride quality. I don't know. I'm not against them. Some people are. But hey, don't get me wrong. Coilovers are great. It's great technology. I'm all for it. I'm just kind of broke right now, and I don't have the money to spend on some really nice suspension. So for the time being, this is kind of a temporary thing. I'd already bought them well over a year and a half ago. They've been sitting in the trunk of my car for that long, and I've just never gotten around to installing them because when the carbon fiber hood got installed, turbo went. Put a new turbo in, engine went. It's just been one thing after another. So I've really had no purpose of putting the lowering springs on yet because the car hasn't been running more than a handful of weeks before something else breaks. So, hoping that this doesn't jinx anything and I finally get to have a lowered car. Today, I'm just going to kind of go over what I did. It is inexpensive. I'm not going to use the word cheap because the stuff I got isn't cheap stuff. It's just inexpensive. Now, in my opinion, a good coilover set, you probably spend around $1,000, give or take. With lowering springs, it is a heck of a lot cheaper. It is a fraction of the cost. And I will go over the cost here. But I'm just going to show you what I did that's going to enhance the ride quality, enhance the performance of it, and it's better than stock. And it lowers a little bit, gives it a little bit better look. Now, the downside, no adjustability. Do your research, do your measurements, make sure your wheel fitment's good. Lowering springs, making sure that the inches that it lowers is what you want. There's a ton of stuff out on the internet. You can find a bunch of information, find other cars. I looked around. I actually went to go find the Eibach ones. They were out of stock at that point. My former BMW days of having H&R springs with Bilsteins, which was my go-to for many, many years. A lot of E30s, E36s, loved it, handled great. So I actually found a set of H&R springs for the IS300 chassis. Well, the person that I bought the car from, they had, not brand new, but recently new, put all new 4 struts, some sway bar end links, and I think the top hats for the struts and everything. So there's a lot of newer-ish suspension components, which is what's allowing me to do what I'm doing today. So all I bought, H&R lowering springs and Figs sway bar bushings. They're just stiffer polyurethane bushings with grease, and it just helps kind of stiffen, kind of firm up everything. Still the factory sway bars. Yes, I know buying thicker, bigger sway bars helps. There's adjustability of them. Not against it. I totally agree. It's good stuff. But for cost purposes here, I spent $225 on the H&R lowering springs. I think I got them off eBay. And the Figs sway bar bushings that go onto the factory sway bar, I think they were $50 for front and rear. For less than $300, I'm going to totally improve the ride quality of this car. So I'm just going to quickly go over what I installed, what I did, what it looks like, and hopefully this helps somebody else who's trying to do something for an inexpensive cost that helps enhance the ride. All right, so here is the front strut and H&R lowering spring that's already been installed. Got your sway bar, lower control arm, which is there. Sorry for the lighting here. It's dark and I'll try and actually use the flashlight wherever I go. So, yes, control arm, upper control arm, and spindle, all that's all original. So there's one of the mounting bolts for the strut. And then up top here, There is 3 nuts that hold it and mounted into there. That is for the strut bar that goes across the top here. That's the bracket for it, so that's where that bolts to. I'm pretty sure all the IS300 chassis came with this little ride height sensor actuator there. Bolts down. Obviously you want to unbolt it because when you go to drop the lower control arm, you're probably going to break that. So super easy. Undo. It's 10mm bolt right here. This is the wheel speed sensor wire that goes right here that bolts to the strut. There are 2 17mm bolts, another 17mm bolt. Undo those 2, and that hole allows the spindle to pop up, so then you can free up after undoing the lower bolt for the strut. Thing comes right out. Easy peasy. There is one of the Figs Racing sway bar bushing. Super easy to install. There's just 2 12mm bolts that hold the clamp that clamp it to the body. And this is the driver's side. And then the passenger side over here is the exact same thing. Super easy. You don't need to undo the sway bar end links. You just let the bar hang, swap the bushings out, put the grease in. All done. Makes a huge difference. Definitely firms up the bar. Totally recommend it. All right, well, here is the rear. The rear is definitely a different situation. Definitely a little bit more crap you gotta take apart. Not as easy to get out. There it mounts up to the body. Another 3 studs that poke through into the trunk. Just open up the trunk, peel back the liner. You'll see it, it's right there. There are 2 12mm bolts on each side, which is actually a nice little thing because when you go to install it, you can just loosely put those bolts in and it helps hold the strut in place so that you can go in the trunk and put the nuts on the studs on the top hat there to help install that. Moving down here where things get a little more interesting. This is a alignment adjustment bolt here that's a little centric. You can see I marked it that way. I put it right back where I had originally removed it. I will do an alignment. I will have to adjust it. I forget, I'm pretty sure that is that the, I think it's the camber adjustment. I forget. It's been a while since I've worked on one of these, or done an alignment, I should say. You have another bolt down over here. I loosen that, undo the sway bar bolt that runs through the control arm, undo the bolt here for the strut, and then take this bolt out as well, and then it allows the whole control arm to swing down so that you can drop the strut right out. Super easy to that extent, other than if you have a high mileage chassis like I do, and a lot of the bolts were pretty stuck, seized up, not fun to remove, but all in all, not bad. Got all the lowering springs in, and not too bad. Here is one of the rear sway bar bushings, one of the Figs Racing sway bar bushings. Super easy, once again, both 2 12mm bolts that hold in to the bracket here and here. Pop the old bushing off, new bushing in, apply grease, clean everything up, reinstall. Life is good. Well, you guys, I'm actually very surprisingly happy with it. Sometimes with lowering springs, you do your measurements, you do everything you possibly can. Sometimes it turns out great, and sometimes it doesn't turn out so great. So, very happy with how everything turned out. Lowering springs will settle over time as it's driven. That being said, it may drop a little bit more, but to be honest with you, I may sound like an old guy. I didn't want a crazy drop on it. I just wanted it to be firmed up, handle better, be more responsive. Lower just a little bit, which it did. 1.5 inches in the front and 1 3/4 in the rear. I feel like the tire size, wheel offset, everything is like my perfect kind of OEM old guy status. Didn't want anything super crazy. I'm not a super flashy guy. I just wanted it to be just nice and tight and well put. For those of you who are wondering, 215 tire in the front and a 255 tire in the rear. The wheels are exactly the same. They're not staggered, but the tires are staggered. Offset plus 38 front and rear. 17 by 8.5 front and rear. So wheel sits exactly the same front and rear, just the tire is the biggest difference. 1.5 years later, finally got them on. So I'm very happy with it. It's dark and it's late. I'm not gonna start the car up because I don't want to piss off my wife. I don't want to piss off my kids. So you're gonna have to wait for another video when I go drive this thing and see how it does.
Say, hold up, wait a minute, something ain't right.